Hey everyone, and thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here. So, Mariana spoke a bit about eponym, and I would like to explain a bit further about what's kind of the novel thing about eponym and what we introduced to the metaverse as an NFT collection. What really changed? So, for some of you that know, NFTs became more and more popular in the past few years, especially 2021. And the thing with NFTs is that many of them were kind of still images, and a lot of the big collections that were traded in very high volume and created a lot of news were a bit sometimes hard to digest for some people that are not from the NFT space or not from the crypto space. It made it difficult for people from the external environment to really understand the value of NFTs. So we used our technology that we developed in Art AI, which is my company, in the past 2.5 years, that allowed us to create art using artificial intelligence. And Eponym is a special interface that allows anyone to use any text of their choice. It could be a word, a sentence, a quote from their favorite book. And this text can be transformed into an image, into an art. And that happens on the spot. And we gave people the opportunity to create this art also by using some modifiers that allow them to really fine-tune their art based on their text and mint it as a part of a 10,000 collection on OpenSea called Eponym. So this collection was already traded in over 4,600 ETH, which is a bit under $20 million since we launched it. And we did a lot of very innovative things with this project after that. So because we kind of created a collection that was curated by the community, it was curated by 3,500 different people in the same night, it was kind of chaotic. And it really reflects the spirit of Web3, the spirit of decentralization, when we not only let people curate the whole collection and be responsible for the whole 10,000 pieces in the collection, we also let people to then choose what are the pieces from these collections that are going to be sacrificed, that are going to be kind of destroyed in order to create a new collection out of that. So out of 10,000 different pieces, we allocated a single week. In that week, people could use their eponyms to sacrifice them in order to create new eponyms called epo stories. And what happened during that week is that people burned over 2,200 different pieces, valued at around $5 million, to create a new collection, also on OpenSea, that was much closer, smaller, called Epo Stories. And the beautiful things about Epo Stories is that they simply give the creator the option to tell a story. And that is also used by our special generator that allows people to create different layers, different images, different text, and put them on top of one another. So we have one token, it's still one NFT, but we have several different layers that are on top of this token. And you can actually browse through it on OpenSea, which is the most popular platform for NFT trading, to see the actual stories. And we had hundreds of these Epo stories created, and we had people really putting a lot of time, also a lot of money, into creating these unique Epo stories, including some very, very famous artists. And actually, I just finished another talk that was our opening event of an auction that we're doing in collaboration with Forum Auction, which is the first ever regional-based UK NFT auction. Which is based only for Epo stories. So we're taking conservative art collectors, specifically from the UK, and we're letting them buy NFTs in an auction for the first time. And the next thing that I can do, probably the wisest thing to do, is simply to show you what we were able to do with our technology on a single NFT token. So this is something that you don't see every day. You see several different layers. So if that's okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Just a quick second.
We can see it.
Can you see me scrolling around?
Yes.
All right, so this is the Apple Stories collection, and what we're looking on right now are different Apple Stories that were created by our community members. And again, everything, all the text, all the images are completely decided by the community itself. So I'm going to open up a specific Apple Story. It is called "Of All the Things I've Lost, I Miss My Mind the Most." And that's actually an Apple Story that was created by one of our community members and advisors called Melissa Bear. At her past, she was a very, very popular poker player. And she's telling the story of how she transitioned from the desire to gain wealth to gaining the wealth, and then to finding herself after that. And on OpenSea, which is a very popular platform, as I said again, you can see as I'm going through the different layers of this Apple Story, and everything here was generated by Melissa, the text itself, the design itself, and it took a lot of hours and many different weeks to create this Apple Story. And as I said earlier, this is now auctioned, and obviously after that it could also be sold on OpenSea, and that will allow anyone to get this Apple Story and continue and extend this specific NFT forever and ever. So every single week, every single month, we're opening an event called modification event, in which people can extend their NFTs. So that's another novelty, another thing that we're doing here is we're letting people kind of break the previous thinking that everyone had, that an NFT is just a still image. Instead of having a still image, you have a story that you can extend forever and ever. This is something new that we're kind of letting everyone in the NFT space learn about and get used to. If you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Boy, do I have some questions. Okay. So, what I really love about this, Ben, is this idea that you can type in a text or a sentence and the AI creates art. So my first question is, how does it do that?
Okay, so our technology is based on the basic algorithm. Comprises on a group of algorithms called GANs, or generative adversarial networks. And this is an algorithm that is usually used for face recognition and things like that. And we took it to all different places of creating art. The way it works is that we have actually two different AIs that are working together or against each other. They're kind of adversaries. We can call one of them the critic AI, and the other one we can call, oh, sorry for the notification, I'm going to shut everything off so it's not going to be too noisy. And the other one is called the artist AI. So we're giving the critic AI a lot of art samples, millions and millions of art samples, and this critic AI goes over the art samples and kind of identify their different artistic characteristics. Or again, sorry, I'm going to shut everything off. I apologize for that. So we have a critic AI that knows how to identify human-made art, because it knows the color pattern, it knows the objects, and it sees a lot of art in its past. And then we have another one, which is the artist AI, that never saw any type of art in its existence, but it can generate blurs of colors. It can generate different colors of pixels. And it's not doing a very good job in the beginning, but it knows how to do that and how to send it back to the critic AI. The magic happens when the critic AI gives a score, gives a grade to this artist AI and tells it, okay, listen, you gave me a blur of color. This is not good. You need to correct that. You need to correct that. You need to correct that. And you need to correct this. And the higher or the easier it is for the critic to identify that the artwork was not made by a human, but was made by an AI, the more insights it's going to provide. And the AI art is going to use this insight to change its weights that comprises the neural network, to change the way that it is actually formed. So the next time it will create an art piece, it will be a bit more similar to human-made art, because the AI critic gave the directions to do that. After that happens thousands of times, the AI artists now have a lot of insights and a lot of things to base its art on. So it becomes better in generating that look like human-made art, more objects, the colors make more sense, things like that. At some point, it is hard for the AI critic to identify whether the AI artist was the one that created the art or whether it was human that created the art. And at that point, it could perhaps give a higher grade to the AI artist. Now, when that happens, the AI critic understands that it made a mistake. So it also changes in the same process. By the way, this process is called backpropagation. It takes this information and it changes its own neural network. So for the next time, it will be better in criticizing the AI artist. So taking this long story and putting it in a few words, we have an AI critic that becomes better and better in identifying human-made art. And we have an AI artist that is becoming better and better in creating art that looks like it was made by humans and kind of fooling the AI critic until we reach a point where it is very difficult to know, even for a person that looks on it, whether it was created by a person or not. And then there's a whole other part of making the AI generating based on the text that it received. And then we introduce another AI to the system. And this AI knows to look at text and knows if a picture that was generated fits this text or not. And this AI basically knows everything that is on everywhere. This AI is exposed to a lot of data and just need to take a picture, say if this picture makes sense or not based on the text. And when we put all of these three AIs together, of course, it's a bit more complicated than what I explained. But when we put all of these three AIs together, we get an AI that know how to generate art very well, and then we have an AI that knows how to associate text with generations very well, and we can actually have an interface that allows everyone to generate art based on their text.
Wow, that's amazing. I love what you guys have done. You've been at it for a while, building the AI solution, but just how important this is for right now. I can't draw anything, or I'm not artistic in nature in that way, but I love words. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, finally an NFT solution I can embrace. And I think there's Joseph here is a poet, and he said he loves this because, you know, he thinks it's beautiful because he's a poet, and, you know, he creates art with his words, right? So if Joseph and or I want to like create our own NFTs, where would we start, you know, in this process? Do we have to be part of some sort of insiders club, or is this like available to everyone? Where do we go?
That's an amazing question. So first of all, we have our own Discord with a lot of people that really love art and love NFTs and love creating art. And by the way, a lot of people that really love creating poetry. And I'm going to right now add a link to our Discord for whoever want to join and speak about it and learn more about it. And in our Discord, we also have a special generator that allows you to type in text, and based on this text, you're going to receive a generation within the Discord channel. It is not as elaborate as the interface that we use in order to make the NFTs, but it is connected to it. About creating and actually extending Apple stories, which is the unique NFTs that I talked about earlier, and anyone can do that if they own an Apple story. So I can send a link to the collection of the Apple stories right here that shows all of the different Apple stories. Many of them are what I call Gen 2 eponyms, and these Gen 2 eponyms are basically Apple stories without layers. So people burned two eponyms in order to create them. As I mentioned earlier, there was an event where people had to sacrifice their art pieces. But they have no layers, so they have only the first layer on them, and anyone can erase this layer and build a new piece on top of them. And also, I just spoke earlier about an auction that we have right now that allows you to purchase these Apple stories not through OpenSea, but through Forum Auctions, which is a known UK-based auction house. And this, of course, purchase can also be made in US dollars or in GBP. If you don't currently have ETH or a digital wallet and want to learn more about it. And one last link that I'm going to provide is the link to the original collection, which is the collection with the highest volume. And this collection is unique because it depicts one crazy night in which 3,500 different people work together to mint a collection. So it says a collaborative work, not made by the owners of the collection, which is Eponym, but by the collectors of eponyms, because in a single night, everything was sold in a single night. 3,500 different people created basically anything that came up their minds. Some of them really put a lot of effort in creating the piece. Some of them didn't have enough time, so they have pieces with typos, and everything is edged on the Ethereum blockchain basically forever. So it's a unique piece of history, and I really recommend everyone to visit these things and learn more about them. And of course, our Discord is full of information.
Okay, still confused, but I'm just like blown away. So let me try to unpack everything. And I think we have some questions here, and I'm going to try to add those in. So question one, once I join the Discord channel, is there a tool I can use to create one of these things, or do I have to buy a piece of an existing collection to then create my own NFT?
So there is a tool that you can use in order to play with our generator. Some, depending on the number of people that are using it, it can be limited to owners only. There are some privileges that you get by becoming an owner of an eponym. Doesn't have to be an repository. It can also be a regular eponym that you can get by addressing one of the links that I sent earlier. But you can always join the Discord. People will love to speak with you about eponym and explain more information. Everyone are very nice and really into art there and can share amazing stories.
So why limited? Just so from what I understand, even though it sold 20 million total, how many pieces were in the original eponym?
The original eponym collection had 10,000 pieces, and a bit over 2,200 of them were destroyed or sent to an address that it's called the black hole. It's the burn address of OpenSea. It means that no one owns them and no one can never own them anymore. And so they're still visible on there, but they don't have an owner. So there are right now about 7,000 and around 7,500 tradable pieces out of the initial 10,000. And the new collection called Epo Stories have about 1,200 different pieces.
Just as a business model now, not as someone who wants to go like run and create one or many. Why would you limit it? Why did you burn it? Why are you limiting the number? And what's the business model behind it for the company?
Yeah, so one of the things that was very important for us is to make it NFT art. And this NFT is quite different from a lot of other popular collections, has an emphasis around art. So it doesn't have rarity traits or things like that. The value of the different pieces is based on how they look like and the text that they have. And other than that, because it is based on elements that we know from the conventional art market, it is also scarce. So we launched the collection. We actually accidentally launched the collection a day before we intended to. So we launched it during it was a Sunday during an NFL game. It didn't really matter. Twitter started blowing up with it very, very soon. In a few hours, they were all purchased. And one of the reasons that everyone wanted to get one of them is because they are scarce. So 10,000 pieces was the number that we decided is going to be the upper limit, because it loses some of its value when anyone can do it anytime they want. And it is hard for a piece to gain value over time if there are infinite number of that. And you can see that in the conventional art market. If Picasso made, obviously it's impossible, it's one person, but if he made 10 times as many art pieces or 100 times as many art pieces as he did, maybe they were still worth a lot of money, but not as much as they worth today. So same thing applies here with the 10,000 collection.
So in terms of the next steps for the Art AI and Eponym project, are you planning on just keeping it, so focused on these first 2 drops? There will not be a third drop of any kind unless there's a part of the first or the second one in.
That's a really good question. I'm really happy that you asked that. We actually have another drop coming, which is very different than the first and second generation of eponyms. It is actually called Epo Heroes, and we will allow people to create their own avatar, their own PFP, using our generator, which is specializing in creating figures. And then after you create your own Epo Hero, and then it's going to be a 10,000 pieces collection, you can make this Epo Hero speak, and you can animate it, and then you can make it into a 3D figure. So we already dropped a few teasers on our Twitter, and we had a lot of very, very good response. And the release is going to be at the end of the month, and anyone will be able to create their own Epo Hero and use the AI to generate the character that either just looks very funny or looks really cool, or maybe it kind of looks like themselves, but not exactly, which is important to a lot of people in this community, because remaining anonymous is something that is important to a lot of NFT collectors. And it's cool that you can create an avatar, a PFP, that looks like you, but still, if someone knows this PFP, doesn't mean that your identity is revealed. So a great tool, and of course, it's going to be lore behind it, and it's largely affected from RPG and MMO games. So there are some cool attributes that are coming with your Epo Hero, depending on how you generate it. And yeah, lots of very, very cool things are coming with the next collection.